Hey, all, this is Blake. I just want to tell you, even though this obviously is not my review of Kick-Ass yet, I'm hoping I'll have that done by tomorrow. I should. And that's going to be an official one. This is just a video log. But I just got done watching the final episode of Lost. And yeah, I'm a little late. I had to record it because I worked last night. But I have a lot of problems with it, even though I liked it overall. And I'm a huge Lost fan. It's one of the few TV shows I actually watch. And like I said, the final episode, it was really overall, I think, satisfying. It was often emotionally challenging, intense, suspenseful, epic. Plenty of words have been used to describe it much better than I can. But all in all, I was positive about it, I guess I should say. But there was a lot of things about it that really irritated me. And I have my own little list here. But, alright, for the first, it's a small one. The CGI I thought was pretty poor at times. Now, you can't really compare it to a movie. But at the same time, with how big the show has become, I think they could have improved a little bit more than they did. I mean, it's acceptable when it sucks in the earlier episodes. But come on, by now, there should be enough money to get a little bit better CGI. But then my second, even more important, because that's just a minor problem, is I thought the Man in Black died too early. I thought he was actually a really good villain. They tied him well, obviously since he was the smoke monster. I keep calling him the smog monster. So I might do that a few times. But, it was a pretty awesome, intense villain. I thought Terry O'Quinn did a marvelous job as the villain here. And I really liked him, I should say. I really liked to hate him. And I just thought he got killed off too early and too easily. Another thing that bugged me is I felt some subplots they begged to be resolved. I'm not going to be too anal on it. A lot of things obviously can't be resolved. But I felt since they had all these cameos of characters that have been dead for God knows how long, they could have used Michael and his son maybe show up at the end with them. Especially Michael, considering he was only in a few episodes ago. But then, especially the son. I mean, that was weird how in the earlier seasons they make him out as if he's going to be really important, but then they just drop him. And that just kind of felt weak. I really, really hated the whole thing with Saeed and Boone's bitchy sister that I never really liked to begin with. And that was a major issue for me, because for one, I actually had forgotten about her, and I especially had forgotten about their relationship, because that was handled, I don't know, season 2 maybe even earlier. I don't even remember if it's been so long. But they made such a big deal with Saeed and his wife. I don't even remember her name either. But I thought that relationship was handled really well for the most part, even though they didn't spend too much time on it. I always thought the thing with Boone's sister was shallow and underdeveloped, so that when she did die, I really didn't care, and I wasn't really sure why they made such a big deal about him caring. But since they focused so much on his wife, it just felt weird that they suddenly go back and suddenly these two are a pair again, even though they haven't even touched on that episode for seasons and seasons. So that just kind of felt like a real weak attempt to tie up a loose end, which wasn't necessary. And this is a big problem with the whole series in general, and the finale does this quite a bit too, is it feels like whenever it hits a story snag, it just makes up some shit to explain it. It's always funny how they do that, and certain things, just like I said, they bring it up, and then it's like, where the hell did this come from? That's obviously poor writing. But I think the problem with Lost is I think that even though it had probably a simpler story than people are going to give it credit for, they just had too much scope on it. I mean, just too much was going on to the point where so much stuff kind of lost their relevance. And I thought, even though the seasons always were interesting, I thought certain aspects were handled poorly. I always thought Mr. Echo's death was really stupid. I hated that. And I think now it makes a little more sense, even though I'm probably wrong on this. It came to me that, or knowing what I know now about later seasons, was that the Man in Black probably was initially going to intend to use Mr. Echo in the way that he ended up using John Locke. But obviously that didn't work out. But even then I'm not sure, and it's been so long that I can't even really remember anything that would completely support or detract from it. But then one thing that that probably frustrated me the most was the ending. And in a way I liked it. I actually was beginning to suspect, and this is definitely spoiler alert, I was beginning to suspect that this was probably the afterlife they were in. But I was expecting how that in the main timeline everybody would probably die, but then they'd pretty much spend their lives in this alternate timeline. To me, that would have been more satisfying, because now everybody's pretty much survived. It would have just been a completely exhilarating, it would be, to me, the perfect conclusion for a series that went on this long, with characters that have been through so much. You feel like it's like the ultimate happy ending, that nothing went in vain, that everything had a purpose, which is obviously a major theme in the movie, or in the TV show. And to me, that's how it should have ended. But instead, it just kind of fell off. I mean, the main timeline, obviously everything happens. In the alternate timeline, turns out that it's pretty much everybody's died, whether it's natural causes or being killed. And then it just sort of, I don't know, it didn't work for me. It just kind of made that whole alternate timeline thing pointless. I mean, they were figuring out stuff that they pretty much figured out on the island. Like, my biggest complaint was Jack. Right, a few episodes ago, Jack pretty much came to the conclusion that they were all here for a reason. He realized the importance of the island in his life. But then he pretty much goes through that same kind of development in the alternate timeline. This episode, and it felt really redundant. And, I mean, it was just nothing that the characters hadn't figured out before. So that it didn't work. Everything felt like it was in vain. Like the whole, when they nuked everything and Juliet said it worked. Well, what worked, since technically none of that existed? And speaking of which, how did they survive a nuclear blast? I guess that's part of the powers of the island. And if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, I have a real poor memory in a lot of the small details. So obviously I'm forgetting a lot, but like I said, it felt like a very frustrating yet still somewhat satisfying ending. I kind of liked how they treated the spiritual aspect, even though there's a lot of Christian symbolism, especially in the final shot. It's too easy just to say that, okay, this is Christianity or whatever. And at times I was even wondering if Jacob would turn out to be God. But it treats death as a mystery. You don't know what's going to happen. So in a way, the fact that they're all died, like, is this the lives that they wanted or what? Some in cases it obviously was, in other cases it wasn't. But that's just part of the mystery of death, and I liked that. It can't explain itself, really, and that's like, and I admired that. They could have took the easy way out and just said it was heaven, but then that wouldn't make much sense either. So that kind of ambiguity I was cool with. And I liked the fact that in the end you really don't know what the big picture was. I mean, you knew that, the island was the most important part of their lives, but really, was Jacob 100% right? He was pretty much got his information from his adopted mother, who was kind of crazy, and she probably just heard it from somewhere else. And that's the whole issue. That's the whole theme of the series. Is there a purpose to life? And I don't think the show gives us a definite answer, and I like that. But still, I felt they could have, I think, fixed a few aspects. I just, like I said, I felt the ending kind of just felt tacked on, and it could have been better, but still, like I said, I loved the show, and I thought the series, the final episode, was all in all a pretty good episode. And that's it. Please subscribe and stay tuned for my review of Kick-Assia.